Hi everyone, welcome to another workshop presented to you by the Writing Support Center. My name is Genesis, I'm one of the faculty here at the Writing Support Center, and today we're going to be talking about taking breaks. How do you take a break while you're studying or working on an essay, and why are they important? So just a quick overview of what we'll be discussing today. We're going to be discussing why breaks are important, what constitutes an effective break versus an ineffective break, why you should take a break, how long a break should be, what kind of break is best for you, and how you can utilize technology to help you when taking your breaks. To get the most out of this workshop, we recommend that you complete the accompanying worksheet that can be found in the module from which you access this workshop through. We also ask that you take your time. You're more than welcome to pause and rewind parts that were confusing or went too fast. So there's a variety of reasons why breaks are important. The most evident one is the fact that it helps reduce stress. When you take breaks, it allows you to sort of reset yourself, bring down the stress levels that you may have accumulated as you were working on your project or multiple projects. It helps increase productivity. So as opposed to what you may think, breaks actually help because you're feeling more rested. You're able to do complete more in a shorter amount of time when you resume your work. It also improves your memory because it gives time for things to move from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. And it also restabilizes your mood. As I mentioned, it helps you sort of do a reset. So if you're feeling really stressed or if you're feeling really anxious, it can help you come back down to a state of calm. So we're going to do a quick reflection activity. Please complete this activity in the accompanying worksheet that's found in the module. But I just want you to think about if you currently take breaks while you study. If so, what do you currently do to take a break? And if you don't, what prevents you from taking a break? So believe it or not all breaks are created equal. So some breaks are actually not as effective as others. One of these examples is scrolling through social media or surfing on the internet, and reading and responding to email. So the reason that these are not that effective is because you're constantly staying engaged. When you're taking breaks, the whole purpose of them is to give your mind a little bit of a break from being on or from having to focus and make decisions. However, when you're scrolling through social media or surfing on the internet, you're actually continuing to engage that part of your brain, that decision making part of your brain. And as a result, it never gets a chance to turn off for a moment. Same goes when you're reading and responding to emails, like you're still continuously doing work. And as a result, you're not able to, as a result, you don't get the rest that you need. Furthermore, additional blue light can also tire your eyes. If you're doing your homework on a screen, like on a computer, as a result of as a post-pandemic world, we still experience a lot of computer usage. And so that all that blue light tires out your eyes. So what you can do when you're choosing to do what you can do when deciding what kind of break you should do, you really should check in with yourself and ask, does this activity make me happy? Am I happy as I'm scrolling through Instagram or going through all these different little TikToks? Is this making me happy? And do I have agency over this experience, or is this happening to me? Am I making, does this experience, am I able to choose what content I'm engaging in, or is the content sort of being thrown at me? Effective breaks help distance yourself from work. So you really want to, so effective breaks really help you step away from the work that you're doing and really give you a full-on break from making too many decisions or further stimulating you or creating negative emotions. So really want you to ask yourself, what do you want to do? And so some ways to decide whether what kind of break that you should take is ask yourself, what do I want out of my break? Is this going to help me relax? Does it excite me because I'm trying something new or challenging myself? And does performing this activity help exercise control? So there's a variety of different types of breaks that you can take, from something creative, something that involves movement, something that nourishes your body and your mind, to even socializing. So if you want to do something creative, you can do something such as daydreaming, set a new goal, writing, learning something new. And this is really helpful because it helps you exercise the right brain. It gives your prefrontal cortex, that decision making part of your brain, a break, improves your memory, and helps your brain produce dopamine, so it can make you happy. Movement can help you. Movement is a really great type of break because it can increase your executive functioning and improves alertness, attention, and motivation. Even a simple change such as moving to a different location, inside or outside, can produce calming effects and help provide boredom. And some suggested activities for this could be like connect with a nature or streetscape, so like going on a walk. Again, changing your environment, so finding somewhere new to do your work, or even just doing a small chore. So maybe you're eyeing those dishes that are in the sink, and you're ready to take a break. You really want to get those dishes done. You can go ahead and do that. Nourishing your body and mind really allows you to take a step back to take care of your body and mind, which can help reduce stress, help you feel more rested, productive, and attentive when you return to your work. So something like meditating, taking a power nap, drinking coffee or tea, having a healthy snack, or listening to music can really just help you calm down and make you feel a little more rested as you return back to your work. And lastly, socialization. Believe it or not, like socializing can be a really great break because it helps create a feeling of connectedness, which creates a really positive emotional state. So sometimes it's just nice to catch up with a friend or call back your parents if you haven't called them in a while, calling any family member, speaking with your roommate, that kind of stuff. So these are all just a variety of ways that you can take a break and get yourself um, back to a reset. When deciding how long your breaks should be, you really want to think about what's working best for your schedule. Building in short breaks can help you stay motivated, because part of the reason it's hard for us to take breaks is because we feel we can't take a break until we finish the task. But if we notice, the longer that we stay working on a task, the less productive we are while we're doing that. So building in those short breaks can help you stay productive and engaged with whatever it is that you're doing throughout the whole session. Because in reality, we can only focus, I think, for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes at most on something. So once you start pushing that, then you're unable to really stay engaged. So an example of building in short breaks is the Pomodoro method. So the Pomodoro method talks about setting a timer, and you're working on something for about 30 minutes. And then once you're done with that time, or 15 minutes, sorry. And then once you're done with that time, then you take a break for about 5 minutes, and you do this cycle about 4 times. And then once you're done with one of those full cycles, then you've earned a longer break. So maybe a 15-minute break. And then you just do that as many times as it takes. There are YouTube videos of folks doing study with me's that you can find where they do the Pomodoro method. And so that can be a really great way for you to keep track, and makes you feel like you're studying with a buddy. Adjust your breaks to fit your needs. So sometimes you may not be able to take a longer break, and that's totally fine. Maybe it just means that you work for a little bit less time. breaks as short as a minute can improve performance and productivity. So really any length amount of any break of any length amount of time, it would be super helpful for your studying. And if you don't really have time to take a break, if you really feel like you have to finish this task right away, then try interleaving, which is switching tasks, or as I like to call it, productive procrastination, where you're working on something, and then if you find yourself like getting bored of that project, or you're no longer able to focus on it, then what you would do is you would switch to a different assignment. And doing that switch sort of allows you to do, again, a reset, because you're no longer focusing on that project, you're focusing on something else. And so you're just engaging in different material. Right. When trying to decide what kind of break is best for you, just keep in mind that everyone is different. So what works for your friend may not work for you. So really check in with yourself and learn and keep a record of how different types of breaks make you feel. Do you want to feel more motivated? Maybe consider a break that includes movement to get those natural endorphins coming through. Do you want to feel more productive? Maybe you want to engage a different part of your brain by trying something new. We really recommend creating a break menu of activities that meet different criteria. So that way, when you are ready to take a break, you know what to go to, or you know what works best for you. And really just try avoiding social media as much as possible. And, it also helps if you have an accountability buddy, someone to remind you, hey, our break is done. It's time to go back to work. All right, so now we have our second reflection activity. Again, complete this activity in the accompanying worksheet. So after learning about different strategies and breaks, what kind of breaks will you be implementing into your study routine? How come? What is it about this break that makes you feel motivated or productive, or that you feel will best benefit you and your study habits? So how can technology help? So you can use timers as reminders. So you can use your phone to set a timer and remind you to take breaks or timing breaks. Like I said, YouTube, there's videos of folks that do study with me's and where they engage in the Pomodoro method. So that could be a really helpful way to use technology. Rest your eyes. So, adjusting brightness and blue light settings on your computer, on your phone, any technology that you're using as you're studying, that can also help you stay more engaged in your work. And then, of course, using campus resources. So attend Mindfulness Mondays on Zoom, check out a library audiobook, etc. We have a wellness fair that is hosted some semesters, so keep an eye out for that. Right, and we are at the end of today's workshop. So just a recap on some of the best study break tips. Breaks are needed during all study sessions, so it doesn't just have to be if you're prepping for a test or writing an essay. It's really helpful to take a break no matter what kind of studying you're doing. Avoid social media or doing more work on your break. Effective breaks should leave you feeling rested and rejuvenated. And find a break that works best for you. So everyone's different. We're all going to work differently. So really take into consideration which breaks are going to work best for you and your study habits. So thank you so much for watching this workshop. We really appreciate all the engagement that you give us. You're more than welcome to come into the Writing Support Center, and we are here to help you with any and all writing needs. Have a good day.